Well, hello, free people of the Rocky Mountain region. I'm joined by Natalie Menten today, one of Colorado's Liberty leaders, one of our experts here in Colorado about all things politics. Natalie, I'm really glad you joined me today, and I'm really excited to hear about public unions. This is going to be a big topic in the 2025 legislative session, and I have to applaud you. I know you've put a lot of work into these slides, making a complex subject very easy to understand and providing the context and information that people need to know to be effective in terms of fighting against this in the upcoming legislative session. So, really excited, really interested to hear what you have to say.
I'm glad to put these slides together. I think it'll kind of illustrate where we've gotten at this point, but then come into it that there's a couple ways that we can prevent further risk to the taxpayers. And so I'm ready to jump into these slides and share some of the information I dug up.
Perfect. Let's
Oh,
jump on in.
okay. All right. So what we're covering here today is public unions. And I'm going to start with there are public unions at the state level and also different levels of government. And the issue comes in when we have public unions, there's different modified versions in Colorado. How can that then change and relate and be actually a much more powerful group of people than one might expect, and why there should be some interest from the public in limiting these actions and consequences of what occurs. So here we go. So here on this first slide, we've got a teetering scale, and this is going to come up as Brandon mentioned in the legislative session. But there's also some bills that were just recently enacted or passed that will also play into the slide set. So the public unions is a big picture here. We're going to be covering a state level, county level, city level. Again, where are these pieces at? How can you make a difference? Moving into it. First, a little bit of background. Colorado is a modified right to work state. And this is really important because of a bill that's going to be coming up in January. I'm sure you'll be covering it here on Free State. I'm sure you look for people that will volunteer to help keep an eye on legislative bills so that we can keep an eye out for certain things like that. So that's a first action step from this video here is sign up for one of the groups. It's going to be keeping an eye on the bills. What is a modified right to work state? That basically means when you have a modified status like Colorado, you do not have to join a union, whether in the public or the private sector, without a second vote. And so there's stages to this. And you can see here in the cartoon that I created, the woman saying, "I refuse to sign, I'll keep my money," because that's really what it boils down to. When you're not forced to join that union, you are not represented by the union. It also, you don't have payroll deductions that go to union dues, and we'll explain what that kind of money ends up looking like in the long run. So the unionization stages, first of all, in Colorado, this is actually a little bit rare among the United States, our modified status. The first vote that a group of employees can have is to create a consensual union, meaning, again, right to work. You have the choice to join, called open shop in shorthand. That requires 50% vote of those. First of all, you're going to get your petition signature and then a vote, and it has to be at 50% plus one to be able to get that open shop unionization. But in Colorado, this is where it's modified. We've got a second vote to form a required union. The shorthand for that is called closed shop. In Colorado, to get to that second stage, you have to have an approval vote of employees by 75% of them. Again, getting signatures, getting 75% then to vote for this. That means then the employees are required to join the union, required to pay union dues. There's a variety of long list of impact to this. Let's say some employees are fine with the employer's contribution or payment or terms or whatever it may be. But if you go on, let's say, in a strike status, you may have heard a long time ago about crossing union lines, picket lines, and the impact it can have on employee relations, let's say, and workplace relations. So there's different things here that are envisioned besides just simply paying union dues. In Colorado, again, we're on background, Right now, there's 6.9% of the population per recent status 2023 data on this. And this is from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So this is a very much a source material here. 6.9% of the population, that's about 189,000 people in Colorado, are part of a union, public or private. You can see there from the bar graph, I'm not going to have a lot of graphs. This one's pretty easy to read though, where Colorado has been dwindling. It had a dwindling, 2021 being a low period, but it started to slowly climb back up. Notice we are not where we were in 2018. We're far lower. Okay, so that's a good thing. Keep an eye on that. And I think the cartoon I created here kind of tries to illustrate that. How are the unions feeling about this? Well, here's a sad union boss, and he doesn't have enough play money, and I'll describe a little later what play money is. But he's bought and paid Democrat politicians who are going to be, I'm sorry, when you take contributions in the amounts that you'll see a little later in the slide deck, if I'm saying bought and paid, I don't feel shy about saying that. There's an obligation created. And if it's not, then we'll see how the bargaining table comes out with this. But anyway, back to membership. First of all, we got so back to under 7%. Now, just recently, what is drawing the attention of certain individuals, myself and others who are starting to write articles about this, get involved with this, is in November, not too long ago, there was a press conference down at the state capitol, headed up by Senator Danielson, Representative Javier Mabry, Janet Griswold was standing there just to the left of the crowd. It was quite a showing. We'll see here in a second. But it also included unions at this press conference, including Teamsters, AFL-CIO, the AFSCME, who we'll describe later, and other local unions, announced introduction of a bill in the legislative session opening up in about a month from now, titled the Workplace Protection Act. And the chief purpose of this bill is to eliminate that second consensual second vote so that immediately upon a first vote with a 50% plus one, let's say, you would become closed shop. So let's say you're working at someplace right now and all of a sudden 50% plus one of the employees vote to go to unionization. If this bill were to pass, you would be forced into that. Now you can go work for somebody else, but let's say you've been working there 10 years and all of a sudden you got this really big change in your workplace, and it's a big work change.
Natalie, does
So,
this would include private unions, not just public?
yes,
Wow.
that is my understanding of it. Is that this would be impact. That's why, especially if you note let me go back, the others who are involved here. I mean, Teamsters is, that's, I don't believe that's a government unit. AFL-CIO, not a government unit. The AFSCME that's American Federation of State, County, Municipal Employees. That is what I would consider more of a government union versus Teamsters and AFL-CIO. But there was also other local unions there. So to me, maybe I'm wrong, but I read this as not just government. I think right now we could say this: nobody except for those sponsors of the bill know what it's going to entail, and even now they're in draft stage, I'm sure. So they're able to keep this confidential. Thumbs up to Stephanie. Oh, I'm going to blank on her last name. State Representative Step Luck, because she had a bill where voluntarily you could share your bills prior to session opening up so people could get engaged. It didn't really fare that well. I think it was passed but watered down. Anyway, end of the day, wouldn't we love to know what's going to be in this bill? Because is this going to impact the employment of how many workers within Colorado? And 189,000 of them and a few legislators are the ones driving this. So I can't specifically say what's going to be in it. That was a long answer. Any other thoughts on that one? Okay. So as I look into this a little more, and very well, let me just jump back one step. Maybe it would be just government. possibly, but I can easily see with those support organizations that there will be something that will give something to the private sector because there's been too much investment from those folks and they want their union dues to grow also. They're not happy about also that 6.9%. All right, jumping back to this slide. One of the people pushing this has done a white paper on it, and this is a think tank. Actually, I'm not even going to probably say their name out loud. Think tank for does not like Tabor, does not like limit government controls, does not like transparency into more operations of government financial, even though they will claim that in their name, is a group that rivals with those who are, chief there. They would be like the toolbox in the Democrats' hands. And I hate to say Democrats, but they're the ones that do have the platform plank number one of repeal Tabor. So anyway, with all of that, the group that publicized this document here tries to imply here down in this red box at the bottom here, because they're already all pushing this hard. State policies that suppress union membership damage the state's economy and affect all Coloradans. And they note here at the top of the article, Colorado state labor law similarly imposes de facto anti-union conditions on Colorado workers. And it goes on to be talking about how basically, because there is this open shop policy within Colorado, that is harmful to our economy. This is once again what this really is more about the Democrats taking away consent. You want a little rant, right? It's about taking away consent. They don't like asking for our consent about Tabor. And now they don't want to really ask for consent. I mean, 50% plus one are going to be able to unionize a whole workforce, whether it's public sector, private sector. It's a supermajority. I mean, I'm even disturbed by supermajority. It should be open shop. There should be no closed shop. I mean, if we wanted to talk about being a pro-worker state, pro-business state, how does that help in any way so possible? All right, so moving now.
Well, just wanted to say, no, I appreciate you sharing their propaganda because these are the talking points that we're going to have to contend with in the legislative session this year. This is exactly how they're going to make their arguments, and they 100% hit the nail on the head. They want to take away consent. They want to take away the rights of workers to opt out of being part of a union. I mean, that's what it comes down to, folks. If you know anybody who works in the government, anybody who works in any government institution, organization, this should be absolutely something you should fight because they want to take away your consent and possibly change the entire dynamics of a workplace that you actually enjoy it to work at.
Yeah. And if that doesn't scare somebody, then the next several slides I think will, because it shows then where forced money out of your pocket, out of your paycheck will be going. So even if you think, okay, I'm not getting fair rights at work and data, well, don't open this can of worms. So on to the next slide here. Let's just keep on this thread of, first of all, they were claiming that it's a cost to state's economy in that last slide from this group that I don't even want to mention their name, but I've known about them for years. So with that, here's an article I think this is a good example, and there's no guessing on this. Today, I listened to a joint budget committee meeting and hearing state budget items that are being added on because of a certain union of Colorado. It's the statewide one. But from this article here, what it's stating is, I'll make sure I've got it right. Research indicates that the cost of running a unionized operation is 25 to 35% greater than a non-unionized one. And this figure does not reflect, that figure does not reflect any negotiated changes in unionized employee wages or benefits. And I should have moved to I see that my little red box moved there, but it should be on that top two lines. So what that is saying there is that's overhead. And I heard it today in the Joint Budget Committee where they needed to have 4 employees just because of counseling and mediation and complaints against the employer. Just the administration was 3.8 employees. Some other things, communications, things that could have been subcontracted out, frankly, So there is, I have no problem believing this figure, even though I'm going to cite the source and somebody can vet it themselves.
Yeah,
Next.
no, just want to say, yeah, you think things are expensive now. If you have forced unionization, you have closed shops, whether it's government or private sector. I mean, your costs increase dramatically. 32% of higher labor costs for every government in Colorado. I mean, that's insane. That's insane. It just eats away our tax money. It increases the size of government tremendously. And I can't even imagine if it is the private sector. If they get this during the private sector, then everything's going to go up in price. And affordability is probably the number one issue in Colorado right now. So absolutely ridiculous, absolutely outrageous.
Yeah. Um, it will not help. So that's where I had to have that contrast. And one slide says it'll harm the economy if we don't do it. And it's like, okay. And that does, I don't even know that last slide where I said that 32%, I don't even think that addressed, and when it says wages, benefits, that's also pensions. And I can tell you, after having been on RTD with public pension and the contribution amounts, you've got the union saying we're not going to contribute as equal amount to the taxpayer's amount or the employer. Um, it's a long financial list of things that financial obligations. What was unsustainable obligations? So just going now to jumping again, we're going to talk different layers of county unionization and how this is all starting to merge together here in, let's say, 2022, 23, 24. And then I think it's going to peak kind of ahead in 2025 when this bill comes forward. And I suspect there's going to be more than one bill. Let's keep that in mind too. Again, more reason for people to keep an eye on things and where it can impact in different bills. Trust me, the legislature does not follow single subject rule here in Colorado. And stuff gets slid in, and then it's 2 years later when you figure out something. So volunteer for these things. That's helpful to look, just through. Denver City Council referred Measure 2U to the ballot. That was on this November's ballot. So again, this whole presentation has a state component, some city component, and also big part of county component. This is the city component. Denver City Council referred Measure 2U to the ballot, which has an aim of, let me slide this down. This is from an article at the Denverite by Paulo Ziolita, that would have an eventual aim of being officially recognized by the city for collective bargaining units, meaning the unionization of Denver city and county employees can negotiate and sign contracts with the employers. Now, wouldn't we love it if employers was struck out, crossed in red, regardless of strike through, and put in their taxpayers, because taxpayers are actually the employers. Yet, as you're just seeing a trend here, taxpayers are not at the bargaining table once these things go through. So, all the more reason not to let them form or recognize them or give them more power, because we're not at that table literally. So, we as employers, the taxpayers, we setting conditions based on a collective bargaining agreement. So, in Denver, this passed with the voters. I mean, so I can't control what Denver does. But as they get out to my neck of the woods, we could try to fight this. And I would ask others, fight in Denver, yes, but stop the spread for what you can. In this measure, city workers can't unionize until 2026, but they can start organizing. And that is fairly typical. It tries to make it sound as not as immediate as, oh, like I don't need to worry about it too much. Problem is, it takes a while to get the signatures. What they're doing is they have collective bargaining union bosses who are given the employees list. That person from the union gets your home address. The person from the union gets your contact phone number. They get these things. They're able to then start that organizing by coming to you and trying to persuade, or maybe there's stronger terms for this, to get you to sign the agreement so you get past the threshold and unionize. So they need that organizing time. So you got Denver doing this, and part of the reason was is, well, I'm jumping ahead there for a moment. Um, Here's one thing I wanted to bring forward with this Denver one, out of others, is that, oops, and I just shrunk my screen. How do I get it back? There we go. Sorry. Is that if you note here, with the one that passed in Denver, in this bottom red box, in this one, unlike what's occurred at the state level, and the bill we'll talk about a little bit about the county level, is Denver's granted the right to strike. And if you look at it, um, the only ones that are not allowed to strike are Denver County Court and the employees of Denver Water. But you've got these other units, not including public safety, because they've already got a collective bargaining. So this is Denver Library, um, City Council, Civil Service Commission. You think about the long, long list of other government bodies in Denver, they now have the right to form a union. So it grows and grows. But let's look at Denver one more moment just to show you the amount of money that went into passing this issue, which was sad to see with Denver. Very lopsided campaign finance. You look in the little red boxes, that top dollar figure is support for issue referred question to you. And they spent $527,200. Opposition, meaning a formal committee that filed to oppose this, $0. So where'd the money come from? You've got, and I'm not quite sure why. I could not track this down. I had a difference of the one Denver screen, a screenshot there showing 527,000. But when I went into the stronger Denver campaign, I thought I only saw 224,700 bucks. Either way, it's a lot of money, but I didn't dig further. So just looking at biggest donors, we've got Teamsters at $100,000 out of Washington, D.C. AFSCME, again, American Federation State, County, Municipal Employees, 50,000 bucks out of Washington, D.C. Colorado Education Association, Stand By Your Brothers, 25,000. Teamsters Local, 15,000. SMART, International Brotherhood of Teamsters, Colorado AFL-CIO, Fraternal Order of Police. So I wanted to point out there's a big concept with the whole unionization thing, and it's called the ballot box. I'm sorry, bargaining table. Let me say again, bargaining table to the ballot box. And this is that type of example, and we'll see more. So now we're finally going to jump into Colorado counties. This one passed in 2022. Again, had a kind of a gray area period of time before it was phased to where they could actually do it. The trigger time for where they could actually unionize here in this collective bargaining for counties was midsummer of the prior year. So 2023. Because early 2024, we started to see it taking place, really late summer 2023 into early 2024. So this is collective bargaining for counties, meaning almost all employees can form a union. And again, right now, two options exist. So even if you're a county employee, and think maybe there's some benefits, think heavily about whether you want a closed shop environment. And as a taxpayer watching this video, think about how much this is going to cost you, because we've already illustrated at a state level, we're adding about 30%, let's say 20, 25, 30%, just to be conservative. You want to add that to cost of what's the largest, that you'll hear government say this, our largest cost is manpower. So add that on with that double-digit increase. What are you looking at? You're looking at another ballot issue coming your way, telling you need to pay out more. And again, this is the details on the bill. Collective bargaining for counties. The bill grants county employees right to organize under a collective bargaining unit in counties with populations over 7,500, not including city and counties. And that is why a couple slides ago, I showed you Denver City and County had a ballot issue in November to unionize because they were not included in 230. Okay, putting the pieces together here. Department of Labor, going back to the summary here in the bill, Department of Labor and Employment is required to manage petitions, elections, and enforcement related to county collective bargaining. Beginning in, again, fiscal year 2022-23, the bill increases expenditures to that department. So just Department of Labor, which I've already contacted a couple times asking them questions, they got another over a third of $1 million, close to a third of $1 million, just to run that part of it. They're just overseeing the petitions, the elections, enforcement. And I'm giving source here if anybody wants to look into these things more. There's a whole PDF on this thing. Again, summary of the legislation. Again, it's counties over 7,500. And what this applies to in Colorado, who gets covered by this county unionization? Well, applicability is the bill applies to 38 of the state's 64 counties. Again, city and counties excluded, so that's only a couple, but that's why Denver had their 2U ballot issue. Broomfield is the other one. I don't know status there. I don't think I've heard anything yet, but would not suspect something could be brewing. But you can see this will list the counties that are included, excluded, and then cover a little bit more about other governments and their status. So this is a summary of what 22-30 was. Now, what I thought was interesting in 22-30 was that when they were working on the fiscal note for this, they looked at a prior bill to kind of gauge where costs were going and how they were on a bill measure passed a little earlier. That happened to be House Bill 20-1153. I'm not going to go, well, that's where statewide unionization came in. And that is where then we will see this fiscal note, meaning if we want it from like a horse's mouth, let's say it's Colorado Legislative Council, their fiscal notes, they're already showing when this bill was like first created, the admin was going to be, as in the red box shows here, fiscal note for HB 20-1153 included $6.6 million for an additional 47.2 full-time employees. So that was when the bill was created, and the group running the representation for the Colorado statewide unionization is called CO-WINS. So it's really important to know that acronym because you'll see it, you're going to see it in the future more and more, let me say. And then they created the Colorado Partnership Agreement, which went into effect November 18th, 2021, again with a staggered implementation or enforcement enactment opportunity for them to unionize. So now when you're listening to JBC, and you'll hear over and over and over, like I did today in just a couple hour period, partnership agreement, partnership agreement, partnership agreement. They're responding, that's their way they're calling the term for, well, communication skills, let's call it, on softening the name for collective bargaining agreement, which is much more recognized than Colorado Partnership Agreement, which sounds so happy, you know? Anyway, so then we jumped, okay, we were at 6.6 million and 47 employees, whatever it was. So then I read more and I find, okay, well, there's another 8.8 million since the passage and another 5 full-time employees. And then I just heard in JBC today, you got another 3.8 employees. So this just continues to grow. And it's not really because I think the amount of employees is growing. It's because the amount of things that they are doing increases. And this, I mean, this lays it out a little bit as to where this additional money is going. And somebody can look at this a little bit later. I won't spend too much time on it. But here's where, jumping back to this county bill, remember that's the county bill we were looking at. And for reference, they were looking at fiscal notes of state unionization and how much might it grow. So they give fiscal notes here from the original Senate Bill 22-230. And even there, with only 37 counties qualifying, you can see this is to the tune of millions of dollars. We've got in admin across those 37 counties, potential cost as of the time of this publication, $30.5 million just for admin. That doesn't include the wages and all that stuff. And then I saw today, I mean, they were adding in for like state, they were adding in more DEI employees. And there was, and then they were also adding in housing. So now, and I was glad to see, I got a clip. Barbara Kirkmeyer really stood up, and it's this thing where the BART partnership agreement, we're supposed to be now supplying housing. And Colorado Winds is at the negotiation table with, Polis on this. And these aren't even, it's not even, it's my understanding, not part of the original agreement. These are add-on things that Polis and the union are adding on. So I've heard like rumor, more and more strong rumor. Polis going to run for president. Oh my God, please no. But he is just sucking up to these unions and these things he's adding on. So if he's trying to say he's standing up for things, I don't know, open up the negotiations then. All right. Do it in your press conference room, find a really big conference table, and let the public see by virtual meeting your negotiation, Governor Polis, with what you're doing, especially in light of this bill coming up, which he says he's going to break. Well, let's see all the conversations. How about this, Polis? Actually answer a Cora on this. That's what, if you want to be open, transparent, you want to be a presidente, whatever, Okay, so anyway, so back to this is not all very public. If you remember at the beginning, I said the Colorado Department of Labor is the one that oversees this whole process. I knew a certain local government in my county, Jeffco, was unionizing, and I was waiting to get the document. So I was ahead of the game. The average person doesn't know this. And Colorado Department of Labor, CDLE is acronym, kept going, nope, it's confidential. I think I have a picture. But to me, I put this graphic. This is one good thing for this AI stuff. It makes these quick graphics. I like this. So this is the public sector union playbook. One, confidential. You, the taxpayer, you don't get to really see in there what's going on. So I thought that was a good little thing to add there. Let me also point out for anybody who thinks this is not serious, think about this. This is a clip I found as I was looking for pictures. It's just not government employees. This is strike, no beer, no beer. So for anybody who's just sitting back and thinking they shouldn't get involved, remember, government's going to your backyard. So, and what are you going to do? You can brew your own beer, I guess. So hey, that's better than government, right? At least there you get a choice on your beer. Anyway, back to serious stuff. Collective bargaining petitions. This is just showing where I was trying to ask the state for these petitions. By law, petitions for union representation must be kept confidential. So in other words, I couldn't get the signed petitions for this. All I get is finalized documents. And then you get it through their labor relations page. Somebody can look this up, that this is where you keep an eye somewhat on what's going on if your county government. So finally, they publish it, even after they said it was published and it really wasn't published. I asked them again. And this shows right here, the first government unit in my county to unionize. And I think there's a reason for it. But it's the Jefferson County Public Library. And I think part of the reason they would use the library first in their big game to unionize all departments, because I think that is their end. I think that's what they want in the end. I don't think there's any surprise in saying that, is because librarians are the friendly government worker. And if you unionize a library, you're going to get less people than say, upset about it, than say your planning and transportation department that does your roads, and when they go on strike. Or what if an election department wanted to say, what if permits? What if deeds? What if the clerk can record? What if you weren't going to get your motor vehicle tags because they want to go on strike? So librarians are more like, oh, I don't want to frown on what the librarians are doing. So I think that's to me, and I've heard their complaints. I won't go into that right now, but this is one of the first ones. So they're quietly unionizing. Here they went and they unionized while we couldn't keep an eye on it. It's really no lecture watcher for the public. They're seeing it, but even though you're impacted by it, by the public, more than just financially. Let's just ask this. Does becoming a public union give taxpayers better service? I mean, let's just ask that question. I can say on RTD, I don't think it did, because when we wanted to change a bus route or something, we had to go through a whole negotiation thing. We couldn't just like do it in a couple weeks. No, it was for the next one, and we had those only periodically. And if you didn't abide by stuff, you had to go back to negotiate. Long thing, but do you get better service with a union? Oh, I want somebody to prove that to me. So you had a few hundred people here deciding for our library in Jeffco to unionize. They have already said they want more money. Different terms. They're concerned about safety. They're concerned about safety because they have so many people that are not housed coming in, and people who are disruptive coming in. And I've got to say two parts to that. One, there's a lot of businesses that are facing things like that, between shoplifting to disruptive behavior. The library is not alone, and the library somewhat, I don't know, creates a space in a way. So now the librarians complaining about that unionizing. Anyway, I'll stop there. So let's go into now contributions. You have anything to add? I've been just going away here.
I mean, no, just that this is going to make the government more expensive, increase costs, make it less efficient, make things more difficult for taxpayers, more difficult for the public. It's just going to really just show how terrible the government is overall. You know, slowing down service, increasing costs, making the government operate worse. It's a detriment to our society, our state, our government, our county, our cities, all of it. And it's some people need to really pay attention to, get involved with, and push back on, because this is something we can't escape, unfortunately, unless we're willing to stand up and speak out against it.
And I was, we always want to talk about action, right? So action here is maybe your county is not even, you don't want to go look at even all the minutes and try to figure out if they were talking about it or whatever. Go to public comment or just send them an email and go, if you guys want to unionize, as a taxpayer, I'm going to be very upset. And as a expecting service, because where is it going to get better? So anyway, okay, let's go into then contributions, because again, it's about a power thing. It's about taking away our consent, both as a worker and as a taxpayer. Take away consent and demand, draw, take, pocket money out of your pocket to put it into a power source. Well, where do you figure out where's that money? Where's the power source? So let's dig into contributions. And people don't like dark money. They don't like politics with dark money. This is where this money ultimately ends up going. So here's how it goes. So I looked up just the American Federation of State, County, Municipal Employees, AFSCME. They got a long one. Their donations, you can say big increase here. Donations, Secretary of State for year 2007 to 2024, 868,000. Let's just round it, 868,000. So there's, that's a substantial amount of money, but that's a lot of years. But just in year 2024, we're not even done yet. So this number will grow. I am confident. I know that. Just for this year, we had $441,000 going from AFSCME donations. Now, also keep in mind, that's only from the search criteria that I used right here, spelling it literally out when I search Tracer. If you then use the acronyms, you'll find more money. So Tracer allows those different entries, and sometimes when you're doing research, you have to look at these different pieces. So I've done in this slide, and it's such a tight slide. I'm going to move this over here. Where is this money going from? Those, let's say, nearly $1 million. And this right here is just contributions from that 2024 accelerated period I'm talking about. Now, keep in mind that contributor here means public employees, because it's AFSCME, some of them willing, and some of them maybe not so happy to know that their money is going to these sources. Here's a huge chunk of where the 2024 dollars went. And we've talked about this group before. The Colorado Working Families Fund Independent Expenditure Committee. That's an IEC. An IEC is supposed to act like, well, it's like dark money is what really that is, and not to coordinate with any candidates. So then it's even further like dark money because the candidate goes, well, I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know they were going to put money into it. And it's these mailers that show up with kind of an just anonymous name, the registered agent, you don't know who that person is. And they're pummeling one candidate or another or saying good things, but you don't have real transparency. $300,000 of these union employees went into this dark money. $300,000 of public employees' money from their payroll money, which is actually our taxpayer money we paid them with, is going into dark campaign money. And then the rest of this chart, once we get past IECs, we see how this ties back into the unionization. Because when you have a county collective bargaining agreement, let's say it's the library, well, better yet, let's say it's planning, transportation, let's say it's sheriff's department, because that's kind of coming up. They'll be negotiating with the county commissioners. So you picture a table, and I tried to make a graphic on this, but the AI had a horrible time with it. A table, and it says bargaining table, collective bargaining table. And there's 3 chairs there. One of them is the union, one of them is county commissioner, and one of them should be the taxpayer. But the taxpayer is actually not there. That chair is vacant. And you see some cartoons later in here that show it better. It was professionals who had that concept long time ago. But I wanted one from original content. So you're going to see here is where county contributions to county commissioners were occurring at quite a big level. American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees donated to these county commissioners this year. Dania Escar, Pueblo County Commissioner, $14,400. My opponent, Andy Kerr, taking big bucks from the union. Democrat, $14,400 for Andy Kerr. I can tell you that was substantial. Had been a substantial amount of my fundraising. He got it from one check from public unions. And he's going to be the one negotiating at a bargaining table. And I have no faith whatsoever he will be bargaining on behalf of taxpayers. Bought and paid. Well, it's a big contribution, Andy. So stand up for taxpayers if you happen to watch this. Then we've got other counties. Arapahoe County, Rhonda Fields just left the state legislature, Dem. Arapahoe County, $10,000 donation. Renzo Melz Lucero out of Pueblo, county commissioner, just got elected, $10,000. Another Jeffco Dem. Rachel only got half of what Andy got. I want to know more about that story. She got $7,000. So now we got 2 of the 3 Jeffco commissioners in this case, who just took some really big donations from a group that wants to add on union employees. Take more money from people's pockets. Then we go back to Arapahoe. Carrie Warren Gully, currently chair. Arapahoe commissioners running for re-election, $7,000 for her. Larimer County Commissioner, just elected. Kristen for Larimer, $7,000 for her. Those were some of the largest contributions, but there were many more. Let me get this slide down. So remember, go back to, there's 2 ways to search up. Think of this as like a separate list here. Now I use the search term, the AFSCME, and another group called the AFSC. This is a hard acronym. Let's call it AFS. AFS. Okay, there we go. And the AFS Local Small Donor Committee. So 2 different ways they're funneling money through here. So we had money going to, this is like a big circle, and I actually haven't pierced all of it together, and that's all right. You'll get the big picture. We had Colorado working families getting money. Then now we've got money shifting from AFSCMEs to Altogether Colorado, Colorado Way Forward. Those are, again, IEC committees, dark money. And usually they use this woman over. She lives on University Boulevard. I don't know why she's always happy to put her name on these flyers that is dark. I wonder if she ever gets email, but her name's always on it. We've got the Colorado Labor Action. And then for those who weren't impressed with all the candidate money, for those of us who work to keep our taxpayers' Bill of Rights in Arapahoe and in Jeffco, keep our property tax caps, you should know that the AFSCME donated 25 grand to each of those ballot issues to promote it. And we were grassroots organizations, and AFS has done things like this before, but this just got really, really offensive. And no one loving to know what were the background conversations on all of this stuff. I mean, we got a county commissioners who took hefty contributions. They'll have bargaining units coming to them. They turned around, they gave 50 grand to ballot issues to take away people's property tax caps. Again, taking more money from people's pockets. So then we get into the voter rights Colorado, and that one actually had to do with Prop 131, which actually I saw some gold and silver linings in 131. Just to address the political party dominance in Colorado. But then going back to commissioners, we go back to now we got Adams County, another commissioner with hefty contribution. Julie Duran, another Adams County commissioner. So you got a majority again there. You got one for Larimer County commissioner here. This is again the ballot issues, just a close up. The public union donating to these two groups. And this just makes me just so disgusted to see this. I mean, just people wanted to keep reasonable taxes, and the unions played a part in that. So I have a hard time finally feeling any compassion whatsoever for these groups. So here's the thing is most when the yellow block at the bottom, another thing to get, maybe I know people that work for these unions and they are disgusted about it when they find out about it. Most of them don't know. And so maybe share this with your friends. They work here and go, you know, and you might be working for the union. Do you know your money is going to these things? And you probably have union meetings. I mean, that's what they do regularly. They have a union hall, they meet. Show up and tell them you're sick of money being used against you. Fight back in that sense. This is just a slide of that one group, Dark Money, Colorado Way Forward. And this will have that woman's name. Yeah, Ashley Stevens. She's been on those postcards for like years and years and years. Love to know that's a ritzy area. I'd like to know how much of her mortgage or whatever's being paid, or a car or whatever. But this is that Dark Money. And you look at what they took in Colorado Way Forward. Again, this is like deep campaign finance stuff. $2.5 million used. And the primary purpose of this committee, just to clear that up, because I don't think I mentioned it yet, it's about state house candidates. So it's to educate and inform Colorado voters about state house candidates, primarily supporting Democrats and opposing Republicans. So if you're a Republican working in a union, money's being taken out of your pocket and being sent out on mailers against your Republican candidate. Speak up, stop these unions. Here we've got, I think this is just a duplicate of that. Now, I don't know if we have time to play this real quick. What happens if I click this here? Open up okay? See? Let me just preface this real quick. This is a status in Jefferson County and could be happening in counties around. They're talking about compensation study and whether people are being paid appropriately. HR says clearly in this video, but earlier on, we are paying in line with everybody else. We just had Jeffco Libraries unionize. People think, again, okay, so it's a library. You know, I won't frown on them. It's okay. They're just checking my books. It won't impact me. But this is now a discussion about the Jeffco Sheriff's Department. And I think the reason they're going to hold off on their process is because the sheriff's up for re-election in 2 years. So this is a quick clip here.
but it's only speculation. Speculate without getting in more detail. We haven't really heard.
Just stop it there. But these are the kind of things that are um, going on right now, and interaction and telling your county commissioners. I mean, we're caught in a hard place here with 22-230, but telling the county commissioners that we want open negotiations and to push for it and get the state law changed if we can't. Make these changes. A couple other reads here. Just, I know I left kind of people maybe a little bit down with this, but figure out a little more, get your talking points together. An interesting article that would be from an economic standpoint is what they call from the bargaining table to the ballot box. And that'll give you some talking points that I think you can use as when you're trying to address the different financial issues. There are some financial burdens here that are going to be coming from this. And they're not getting discussed in the open forums. I mean, we've got an upcoming Jeffco town hall. They're going to talk about extreme weather. Instead of talking about these things that are of financial importance, call up these town halls. Send a letter, say, oh, I want a town hall about this and tell me how much is this going to cost me. Then another one, this was actually a debate I found. I don't know how many of these you could find, but this one seemed fairly reasonable. It's the Buckley Institute, and it's a public sector debate about unions. So one for, one and against. And I would recommend that. And then leave this with final thoughts. These are the couple cartoons that are really not that great to look at. But, the bargaining table, I mean, send a clip of the video and said, this is what I tell your county commissioner or electeds. This happens, you can see this is a big power play they're trying to move into here. 2025 is going to be a big year. Tell them, I don't want to be the missing taxpayer in that graphic. And in this other graphic, I don't want to be the person being squeezed in a handshake with my head ready to pop off because my cost of living is already hard enough. And if we want to talk about workplace conditions, anyway. So here's the final thoughts. Ask your county commissioner if they're going to be defending taxpayers at the bargaining table during collective bargaining agreements, or are they going to be representing the union? Because you as a taxpayer expect it to be the first part there. Next, paycheck transactions, deductions. These go through the county's accounting staff. We are paying now to transfer money that's going to be funneled to dark election money. Tell your county commissioners to fight against this thing where we are the dues collection and the disbursement, and we're paying for it with our tax dollars. And a big one, let's make sure that we still keep that second vote requirement, whether it's going to be public or it's going to be private. For God's sake, if they can do it off 50% plus one, you can see where they'll be flying in union reps from other states where they don't have our protective law like we do in Colorado. We're a little bit lucky. Consider it. We're actually a little bit lucky. We got to fight that because, again, they'll be flying people in from other states, paying their housing. You go out, you knock on the doors of this county employee's department, and you round up the signatures we need and the petition votes. So we need to kill that legislative bill while not getting distracted by everything else in life. And now I'm going to be quiet because I was talking too much.
Natalie, I just appreciate this. It is such a good explanation of how bad these unions are for Colorado, bad for the taxpayers, bad for our communities, increasing the costs, making government less efficient. It's absolutely disgusting to think that our tax money is going to pay these public sector employees, and then a portion of that is going to these unions, and then that money is going to these political committees and candidates who are totally opposed to protecting taxpayers, opposed to the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights, and doing everything possible to increase the size of government, take more money out of our wallets. And we end up paying for it. Taxpayers end up on the hook with these public sector unions. It is shameful. This needs to be talked about more. Like you said, we've been very lucky in Colorado that we are just now dealing with this compared to some other states that have been dealing with this for decades, or not or longer. So we have a real opportunity to fight this. Free State Colorado is definitely going to be heavily involved in the legislative session, as we are every year. We got the weekly legislative live stream coming up.
Yeah.
Every week, every Sunday night during the legislative session, we're going to talk about all the bills coming up. So, get informed, use your voice, make personal relationship with your state legislator. It doesn't matter what party they are; they're elected to represent you in your community. So, talk to them, get to know who they are, how they're going to vote, and be vocal. Let them know what's going on, and find other people in your community that you can organize with. We're talking about unions, and it is about organization. You need organization of freedom-minded, liberty-minded individuals who want to keep more money in their wallet. So it's a call to arms, really, for free people everywhere here in Colorado to get involved, to get organized, and let's do what we can to stop this from getting any worse. And wow, just wow, it's disheartening in some ways, but at the same time, having this knowledge, having this information is necessary if we want to fight it, if we want to do anything about it. So thank you so much for all your efforts. I'll have all the links at Free State Colorado, like the Jefferson County video and any others there, so people can go in and get those documents and do a little bit more digging and more research if they'd like.
Sounds good. And I'll mention uh, one last thing, and that is we've gotten in such a predicament where the state government is controlling things and taking away our local choice and our consent. We should maybe think more and more about the option we have in law to become, as example, a home rule county. You craft your own constitution. How many counties gave away their Tabor rights, let's say? What about unionization? If you had a home rule county, you could create a county constitution called a charter that would, one, if your governments are going to unionize, voters have to approve that before it would be a state legislature in the gold capital can't do it. We want our Tabor back. Go to home rule. There was one of the candidates in Jeffco running a lot on the home rule, and I've always been a little leery. It's almost like a constitutional convention that you could have some risk, but it is looking more and more appealing because of a variety of things, especially removing our tax limitations. If we became home rule, we could take that power back, require ballot issues that say what they say. There's a whole bunch of different things. Anyway, I'll stop there. The whole thing is we have options, we have power. And if we all just chip in a little bit and make one email or, show up for one testimony or, take that hour lunch break a little bit later than you thought and chime into virtual testimony, sign up for Free State Colorado, subscribe if you haven't already, and help with the legislative research and the rally call for Free State Colorado leading the charge on the Colorado legislature, because it's good to be on offense.
Yes. Well, thank you, Natalie. Appreciate you. Appreciate all your hard work, and keep up the fight. You're one of our leaders here in Colorado, so thank you for everything you do. And yeah, let's talk again soon.
Thanks, Brandon.
All right, take care.